Mike, I found a new way to watch Penn State football. I DVR the game and fast forward through all the boring stuff. So I cut that game to about 5 minutes on Saturday.
So you're saying there was a lot of boring stuff.
Oh,
I think is
my!
Your overarching message here.
Yes. Oh, it's getting worse every week. I kept saying to my wife, I'm never going to have these moments back. Why am I watching this?
Life's too short, for God's sake.
Doing yard work.
There you go.
It was the best announcing crew they've had for a game this year. Brian Greasy was very good.
I heard Brian Greasy was pretty critical,
Yes, and I thought it was
pretty analytical.
But it was very well done, fair for both sides. At one point, McGloin threw a pass out of bounds on an out pattern, and he said that was a very incomplete pass. I thought very incomplete. Wow. It just was. It was
like very pregnant.
Right, and McGloin was the better of the two quarterbacks, which is a scary thought. Indiana is not a great team, and Penn State barely beat them. The defense, I think, is what's keeping Penn State afloat right now.
Doubt.
Tom Bradley's been fantastic. Offensively, do you feel it's time for them to pick one quarterback? I sort of know the answers. I read your column on Sunday's paper. What should they be doing?
Let me give you some numbers. Bolden, 46% of his passes this year for 455 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. McGloin, 58% completions for 625 yards, 8.2 per attempt, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Passer rating, Bolden 85.3, McGloin 144.3. Touchdown drives led in their career, 32 for McGloin, 15 for Bolden. There's no question that McGloin has outplayed Bolden. You either have to decide, do we want to go with the guy who's playing better right now, or do we want to go with the guy who has more talent but does not know how to play quarterback? Because Bolden really doesn't. Doesn't have any sense of the pocket, pressure, when to rifle it, when to put some air underneath it. He doesn't have a sense of that at all. Turn the keys over to him and let him learn. Let him get all the snaps in practice and all the snaps in the game and let him figure it out going forward. But I really think you have to do one or the other. There's been plenty of times in the last 10 years at Penn State, Zach Mills and Michael Robinson. It would have made more sense to platoon then. Anthony Morelli, Darrell Clark, it would have made more sense to platoon. Pat Devlin and Clark would have made more sense to. This is a particularly bad time to be platooning, not the other way around, in my opinion.
I think McGloin has played a little bit better there, and I think you're right. Bolden doesn't understand when to release the ball, when to run. He just doesn't have that instinct yet. It's something that comes from playing it more. So I think Penn State, if nothing else, needs to have a couple packages with him involved. Sort of like Florida a few years ago when they had Chris Leak as the starting quarterback and a young freshman, Tim Tebow. They had packages at the goal line.
Right.
I don't think they're using Bolden in the right situation, using his athletic ability and using him as the weapon that he is. They may not think he's the fastest guy out there, but the last time I saw them roll him out, make him a dual threat, was Alabama on a 4th down play.
He is
fast.
The pass
wasn't there. He rolled out, reached across, very athletic play to get the first.
There's no doubt that he's fast.
Roll him out.
There's no doubt that he's fast. And maybe if you decided to go with him, then maybe you change the offense a little bit and build it around him, and vice versa if you go with Bolden. I think you got to go with one or the other.
Is there a fear that if they go with McGloin and Bolden becomes the backup, they lose Bolden?
Yes. I don't think there's any question. I think that's part of this story. They're never going to tell you that. Nobody's ever going to say that. And we actually asked McGloin that last week when he was made available in the middle of the week for the first time that the quarterbacks were. And he said, boy, if I thought that was the case, I would be very, very upset. But he didn't quite say that he thinks it is. And he's pretty outspoken. That's got to be part of the picture here. I don't think there's any question about it. It's unfortunate, but it's reality.
What are you looking for in this Iowa game? What must Penn State do?
I think it's a winnable game. Everybody thinks, well, Kurt Ferentz is going to coach rings around him. He has Penn State's number. 8 of the last 9 times they've played, Iowa's won. Some very noteworthy examples in there. But Iowa has been shaky in the last year and a half. They've blown some big leads. They've thrown away some games. They've managed the clock poorly at times. I think this is a winnable game for Penn State. And in fact, I think it's noteworthy that Las Vegas considers Penn State the favorite, a 3.5-point favorite. Even if you allow home field advantage, they still see it as a pretty even game on the strengths of the two teams. So I think it's a winnable game, but you've got to be more efficient offensively. 5 trips to the the red zone against Indiana. No touchdowns in those 5 trips. That's not going to get it done.
They need to get a rhythm, get one quarterback out there to get the rhythm going and so forth. I think this is a crucial game. If Penn State loses this game to Iowa, they have only one I could circle on there, and that's Purdue. That's a win. It's a win.
It's going
Illinois, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Nebraska down the road. Tough games. I think if you lose it, you go with Bolden and just let the young guy develop.
I think it's a crossroads game. I think it's I agree with you 100%. There's a lot of tension and a lot of frustration out there in Nittany Nation right now, and things could change big based on what happens on Saturday.